Hey, Don Williams here with today's episode of the Proven Entrepreneur Show. I've got a good friend and expert with us today, Christian Brim, all the way from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Christian, welcome to the show.
Norte Tejas is what we call it. Thank you, Don, for having me on the show.
The way that the Metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is growing, at one point, we're going to be connected all the way from probably the North Dallas side first, all the way to Oklahoma City. I mean, it's just
Ardmore for sure. I don't know if we get to Oklahoma City, but no, I mean, 100 years from now, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen. So Christian, okay, I know you have a couple companies.
Yes.
Okay, tell us what you do, who you do it with, why you do it, all that good stuff.
All right. So my EO qualifying company is Core Group. We do financial things for creative entrepreneurs. So videographers, creative agencies, that kind of stuff. And so financial things, we bring the clarity and peace of mind to them that is lacking in most creative businesses. That looks like bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, payroll, that kind of stuff. I also work as a consultant with entrepreneurs to help them get unstuck. So the ones that have had success and reached a level of success, but just can't seem to get past that. So I work with them as a consultant / coach in that capacity as well.
Okay, love that. And just to clarify for everybody, so an EO qualifying business, EO is Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global organization to support entrepreneurs, about, 18 or 19,000 people around the world. And qualifying business means that you do at least $1 million in top line revenue. And so Christian and I actually met through EO, I don't know, quite a while ago, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that. And when I was also a member there. So, okay, first question, Christian. Every entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs can look back at a moment where the light bulb clicked on. What was the moment for you when you realized that you could build an actual business, not just a job?
So I was the ripe age of 27. I had had 2 jobs, one in public accounting, one in banking. And I was very frustrated, as I assume most entrepreneurs working for others happen to be. And there came a point where working with the bank, I just realized that like what I wanted and what they wanted was not right. And so I started looking for other jobs. I really wasn't looking to start a business, but I found this advertisement in the Journal of Accountancy for an accounting franchise and just reached out to them and had the conversation. And 6 months later, I was in California doing the franchise training. I had 2 young children. My wife worked very part-time. I went in debt to purchase the franchise and to start the business. And I can't really replicate that state of mind. Like, what the hell was I thinking? But I can say, whether it was the franchise that kind of drove this home, but very, very early on, I realized that I wanted something that worked independently of me. Not that I wouldn't work in the business. And for a long time I did, but the ultimate goal was to create something that existed beyond me.
Yeah. Love that. And so I'm guessing maybe there was an awkward or tense conversation at home when left your job and your wife, who worked very part-time, in your words, and you said, hey, I'm going to go to California. I'm going to invest in this franchise, and we don't have the money, so I'm going to borrow it to do that.
Well, in my defense, her dad wouldn't lend me the money. So I didn't have a choice, right? So no, I distinctly remember that going down to the Lord's table at church to pray, and she was walking with me, and she just had tears streaming down her. I mean, like, she was terrified, and I get it. I mean, like, for some reason, I didn't feel any fear, or I felt fear, but like I felt confident that I could do it. And, over the years, I've tried to replicate that type of motivation where you have 0 options but to succeed. And it's really kind of impossible to do once you've had a certain amount of success. I've actually become much more risk averse as I've had more to lose, and my decisions affect a lot more than me. It affects the employees. So, but at that point, it was yeah, I can do this. I didn't know any better. It kind of reminds me of the article I read about the PayPal founders, and they were having all of these problems. This is a couple of years ago. They were having all these problems with bank fraud. And when they started out, they were just tech guys, right? They didn't really know banking. And they admitted that had they known when they started it what was all involved with bank fraud and having to deal with that, they said we would never have started. And so there's something about being youthfully ignorant that helps.
I totally agree. I think sometimes you have to be the bumblebee. He doesn't know he can't fly, so he does. And I think back to my very first company, I had a whopping $6,000 was my total capital. And I convinced a landlord to do a new finish out on 1,380 square feet in Wichita Falls, Texas. Not sure what he was thinking. And it all worked out. I mean, we were there about 10 years, but I literally couldn't spell balance sheet and P&L. I had no idea what that meant. And all I really knew was how to sell a lot. And truthfully, if you only have one skill, that's a good one to have, is that you can win a lot of business. Offense will, kind of like Oakland. We're both, I think you're a Oklahoma alum and I'm a huge Oklahoma fan. And during the glory days with Barry Switzer, he always was like, let's hang half 100. If we score 50, we win 99% of the time. And there's something to that. Okay. So you work with owners, on decision-making and financial clarity. What's one myth that you think entrepreneurs cling to that keeps them kind of stuck?
Specifically around money, I find a lot of beliefs that become problematic as entrepreneurs. So you show up as an entrepreneur with whatever beliefs around money that you have from your childhood experience and young adult experience. But some of them are not factually correct. They're just beliefs, right? And I think the one that I see people struggle with a lot is the belief you have to work hard to make money, or if you work hard, you make money. And the reality is that is true sometimes, but I know a lot of people that work hard that don't make money. And the problem with that belief is it sets you up for not being as successful as you could be. And it shows up in a lot of ways. It shows up in how you structure the business. So you feel like you've got to be doing more, working more to make money. But it's kind of like I tell people, like, okay, well, if you get really good at what you do and therefore you can do it quicker, should you get paid less or should you get paid more? Right. Right. So you present that to them and they're like, well, no, that's not true. And like, okay, so you see how this is limiting you. It shows up in pricing all the time because, again, a lot of people just look to their cost or effort or time that they've got into something and they say, well, that didn't take me very much time, so I won't charge that much. There's that fear factor. But I think it all stems from that self-limiting belief that you have to work hard to make money. And I would say the ultimate goal of an entrepreneur is not to figure out how you can make more money. It's how can you make more money off of the efforts of others, which sounds kind of mercenary, but I mean, that's what the entrepreneur model is.
No doubt about it. I early on knew that no matter how good I was, I can make more money if I can leverage more people. There's just no doubt about that. So I know you've seen business owners succeed. You've seen business owners struggle. What do you think separates the ones who scale with confidence from the ones who kind of are perpetually overwhelmed?
Well, I don't know if this exactly answers your question, but it is my experience, and then you can interpret it how you want. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this characteristic of being very persistent. Others might say it's stubbornness, depending upon what side of the fence you're on. But this ability to overcome negative things or how reality is to create the vision that they see. And that characteristic is very important to achieve success. But at some point, it becomes a limiter, right? Because there are some things as entrepreneur, as your company grows and scales, that you need to not do. and let others do. One, because you're the bottleneck, but also two is like you're not competent to do it. Like you think you know, but you really don't. And for me, that was marketing. And finally, letting go of that rope. I use the analogy, I was hanging onto the rope, not so that my hands were burned. It was burned down to the flesh. Like I could see the bones, right? And I wouldn't let go of that. But, once I understood that, I was not the right person in the seat, I was just there by default and actively tried to find someone better for the job. I guess that's confidence. And so I don't know if I've answered your question, but I can redirect and answer a different way if you want.
No, I appreciate that. Okay, so thinking back to your own experience, you've been an entrepreneur how long now? 28 years. What's a moment when business just punched you in the gut? And how'd you get back up and keep going?
Well, I had a unhealthy desire to grow. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's kind of like the default mode is grow without really any end game in mind, no like goal you're trying to achieve. And I did that to the point where I almost bankrupted the company. And it was a function of tell these lies to yourself, you're investing in the company, right? And that's your excuse for not making profit. Mike Michalowicz talks about this in his book, Profit First. Great book if you haven't read it, just to hear Mike's story, because it really resonates with, if you're an entrepreneur reading Mike's story, I'm like, yeah, that's me. And making excuses for not doing the things that I knew needed to be done. But I actually walked away from the business and left it in the hands of my brother for a couple of years because I was so burnt out. And like, I remember telling my brother, I went and started a software company and I said, I don't know if this software company is going to work, but I can tell you I'm not coming back and running this damn business. And 2 years later, I was back because it had run into financial difficulty. And I said to myself, I don't know what I don't know what it needs to be, but it's got to be different than what it is, right? I don't know what the solution is, but what we're doing is not working. And so it was that point that we implemented EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, brought in an outside facilitator, and that really it was a slow turn. It was one over years, honestly, but I go back to 8 years ago when we implemented EOS as the turning point of going back the other direction.
Love that. Thank you. Okay. So last question. We're here in this call, 28-year and a 35-year entrepreneur.
Lots of gray hair.
Lots of gray hair. And hey, I'm happy for every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, every day with hair is a good hair day.
Better to turn gray than to turn loose.
Yeah, exactly. So hypothetically, I bring a brand new entrepreneur to the call. And their question is this: how do I use my business to build wealth, not just revenue? What's a simple plan you'd share with that brand new entrepreneur?
Well, I think it starts with your intent. It is, and this is a lot about what Mike Michalowicz talks about and what I talk about in my derivative of Profit First for Creatives is you have to be intentional about making money, right? Making money is not an afterthought. It's not something that happens sometimes. It should be something that happens all the time. If you're not making a profit, then something's not right. And the answer is not to continue to grow, because that's a lot of entrepreneurs' solution. Well, if I just get more customers, more clients, sell more X, Y, and Z, that'll fix the problems. But no, it doesn't. It compounds the problems. And so you have to be intentional, figure out how to make money in the business, and then you can figure out how to scale it. But until you are making money, you don't have, it's like, why are you replicating something that's not working? So to me, it's intent. I think there are great tools. Profit First is one of them that helps you with that. But I also think that entrepreneurs, for the most part, are number averse. My statement is that accounting and finance is much more akin to language than it is to math, in that accounting numbers tell the story of the business, and every business has a story. And I really like to sit down with entrepreneurs who are stuck, and they have this vision, right? One of the things that entrepreneurs do really, really well, and it makes them entrepreneurs, is they can suspend reality, right? That's part of how they get through those difficult times, is they see the future. But sitting down with a business owner and saying, okay, well, what is your plan? How do you see the business? Where do you see the business? And then looking at the numbers and seeing what story they tell, and starting where those two don't match up, right? Like, okay, you say this, but the numbers are telling me this. And I think that all entrepreneurs need to have a basic level of understanding of numbers so that they can understand the story that their business is telling them. You don't have to have level of expertise that your financial professional does, your CPA. That's not what I'm saying. But you said when you started, you didn't know what a balance sheet and an income statement is. As an entrepreneur, there are zero excuses for not understanding those things.
Zero. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so Christian, if somebody wanted to reach out to you either on the consulting side or on the core group financial side, what's the easiest way to reach out to you and your companies?
ChristianBrim.com, beautiful website, just relaunched it. It's beautiful, beautiful, best ever. And the core is coregroup.us.com.
Awesome. Christian, been my pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Don, for having me.
That's today's episode of the Proven Entrepreneur Show. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.